law over this bill. In fact, things have gotten so bad that the Anti-Defamation League has released a letter telling people to stop comparing Arizona with Nazi Germany. But I applaud you for being original by comparing the immigration bill to McCarthyism. Be that as it may, it's still a poor analogy. Questioning people about their political ideology and patriotism is not the same thing as questioning somebody.
He says about their nationality, by the way, the audio just cuts out. Now, as for my comparison, I find it much more like McCarthyism than Nazism, mainly because having people look you over and deciding if you're American or not just reminds me so much of Blacklisted Hollywood. But I will admit that you do have a good point, one that I kind of overlooked. Touché, sir. Do you honestly believe that with this new law in place, legal immigrants will not be affected?
I'm not completely naive in believing that they won't, but even without the bill, legal immigrants are still unfairly detained with the immigration laws we currently have, though I'd like to think it's rare.
It's not as rare as you might think. I know immigrants are already being treated unfairly, and it's a shame. Again, this is me talking about the reaction to the bill, not the bill itself. It will act as a catalyst for personal prejudices to be weeded into the justice system. If there is a neighbor who is right next to a house of family that is of Hispanic origin, but they are here legally, they have all the proper documentation, they came here legally, they went through the process, and this other family doesn't like them, do you really think that there is any way that all of them are going to be able to stay where they are if that family calls like this hotline or whatever?
I don't think I've heard anything about a hotline. I do think there are ways to report somebody for being an illegal immigrant, with or without the bill. But even then, law enforcement would have to go through the procedure of investigating the person ahead of time, checking their immigration status, checking to see if they're registered, and then obtaining a warrant if they suspect they are here undocumented. Because again, everyone follows the law just perfectly.
Legal immigrants are going to get deported because of this. I know this is going to happen.
Even if somebody is wrongly detained, they would probably go through a legal hearing where they would have to be proven without a shadow of a doubt that they have no documentation, and thus are here illegally and should be deported. I don't think it's possible to be wrongly deported, though I could be wrong about that. I only say it because I've never heard of a legal immigrant or citizen being wrongly deported.
Yes, it's very possible to be wrongly deported. And even when there is a hearing to determine whether or not an immigrant is here legally, it's also very possible that law enforcers can ignore certain stages of the legal process and not get reprimanded for it because most immigrants are too afraid to ask for legal help. So things like warrants, habeas corpus, all that good stuff, it can be left at the wayside because no one's really watching. Why? Because racism in America is not dead.
I agree with you, but to be fair, can racism ever be dead?
No, never. The way we're programmed is we are always going to hate people who are different than us no matter how hard we try, which is why this bill is such a bad idea. It gives ample room for people to expand on their already existing prejudices.
Is it possible to completely eradicate racism?
No, but does it really hurt that much to try?
Obviously, it is not as prevalent as it once was, and it no longer has the same bearing on our laws as it once did, as discrimination and segregation have been eliminated. But can it ever be dead? I submit to you that it cannot.
Yeah, it can't. It won't. It never will be. If it isn't racism, then it's something else. Let's move on.
No matter how many laws and reforms you pass, you can't get rid of racism. It's part of the human condition.
Yes, I agree with you. Can we move on now? Because of this, innocent people are going to be mixed up, and they're going to have their lives ruined.
I'm not naive in believing that innocent people aren't going to be affected. Then again, innocent people are wrongly convicted, detained, and sentenced on a daily basis for crimes they didn't commit. Innocent people have been sent to prison or worse, death row. But our legal system is self-correcting. Even if innocent people are wrongly convicted, they are usually proven innocent shortly after and released.
Allow me to present to you the New York Innocence Project. This website lists and details a number of convicted innocents who are sentenced for crimes that they didn't commit and only recently retained their freedom. Some of these people were convicted in the 1970s and only recently regained their freedom. So, released shortly after conviction? I don't think so.
Now, I'm not saying that this is right in any way, it clearly isn't, and we should try to prevent these things from happening. I'm just saying that our legal system isn't perfect where the good guy always wins and the bad guy always loses, and we shouldn't pretend that it can be.
Yeah, now you're just kind of making my point for me.
And a lot of pro-Arizona law people seem to forget that this country was founded on illegal immigration. Unless you are 100% Native American, you don't belong in this country to begin with. The only reason that this is not brought up in debate topics is because back then we got to keep the land because we had guns and they didn't. That's the only reason we're still here.
Wow. Just wow. That's a completely fucked up analogy. I would tell you why, but somebody already left you a comment doing just that. But let's give you the benefit of the doubt and suggest that illegal immigrants are doing the exact same thing that we did to the Native Americans.
Let's pause for a moment, shall we? When I made the comparison to Native Americans, I did so only on the basis that both pilgrims and illegals came to this country without permission from those who were already here. To say that they're doing the same thing that we did on any other level is ridiculous, mainly because they don't have muskets and pox-infested blankets.
Does that make what they're doing right? No, it does not. Two wrongs don't make a right, even though three rights do make a left.
I dare you to go back in my video and find the part where I say that illegal immigration is a good thing. You won't find it. Why? Because despite my aversion to the bill, I do not think that those who come over illegally should stay here. What I am worried about is how it will affect legal immigrants. Legal immigrants!
But you know what? This is just my thought. I'm sick of the whole thing, quite frankly.
Yes, I am too. I am sick of the ignorance and misinformation being spread about this bill.
Subtle. Dude, why don't you just come out and say I'm a dumb bitch? That's what you're thinking.
Which is why I'm going to provide a link to the Arizona bill in the description box.
Alright, a couple of parting notes. Number one, I did read the bill before making the original, despite popular belief. And number two, even though I ripped this guy pretty good, he's about the smartest person I've done a commentary on. So at least I'm debating with someone who has a brain. Anyway, that's about it for me. I don't think I'm gonna do another video on the whole immigration thing. It's just really exhausting. So, that's it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Ta!